Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. That's EROS coaching.com. This show, Eros Evolution, is all about the link between sexuality and spirituality, and it really started as my personal journey and endeavor to find out more about the link. For a long time, I saw the two as separate, and it really wasn't until, say, 2 years ago that I really started to appreciate the link between the two and how important it is for more people to be talking about this link. In today's show, we'll be talking about sex, of course. However, it's going to be specifically about how we talk about sex. And today I have with me my friend and very experienced professional somatic sex educator, Laura-Doe. Intimate communication, intimate connection through lovemaking can be one of the most pleasurable, fulfilling, and sacred experiences in adult life. But due to taboos, shame, and discomfort, many of us find it hard to speak about our needs, desires, and experience. Pleasure and embodiment coach and sexuality educator Laura-Doe will talk about why it is so important to overcome any challenges and how and when to best talk about sex, both to our children and to our lovers and friends. My friend Laura-Doe, she has a vision to create more love in the world, one happy, fulfilled woman at a time. 19 years ago, she created the website yOni.com, and it is a grandmother of the feminine web. The site brought Vulva puppets into her life, which began to sing and chat rather humorously. She created a comic cabaret, Vaudeville of the Vulva was born. Educational entertainment designed to tickle our taboos. She's also trained with many teachers of sexuality across many traditions and disciplines, and so she founded yOniversity, which features a juicy program for both yOni owners and yOni lovers. She also creates and distributes the Vulvalicious Cushions, which are anatomically accurate 3D fiber art pieces. And her most recent creation is an award-winning, I feel, groundbreaking documentary called The Art and Science of Female Arousal. In this video documentary, she has decided to do this to spread the news further than she can in person about the amazing structures, systems, and pathways responsible for arousal in female-bodied people. You can find out more about her by going to yOniversity.com.au and her documentary on the art and science of female arousal.com. So welcome, Laura-Doe. Hello? Laura, are you there?
Hi, Martha. Hi.
Yeah, that was a long introduction, but I just decided to get it
Can you hear me?
all out. Yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Great.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, hi. So Laura is in Oxford, and I think there's a little bit of a time lag between our communication.
There seems to be quite a delay if you're hearing me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Why do you think it's important to talk about sex?
Well, sex is something that, although we would love to have it be completely spontaneous and natural and something that we just know how to do and know how to interact with our partner with, the truth is that a lot of the time we are a little bit in the dark. We are very poorly educated around sexuality. Most of us have not had good sex education. Some of us have had no sex education. And it's really important that we are able to talk about what we like, what we don't like, what we wish for, to ask questions of our partner, to check in, to explore. And yet, unfortunately, this is something that most people find really hard. We have such a huge range of taboos and quite a lot of shame and embarrassment around sexuality. So talking about it is often not easy. I think that one of the really important things is that we are able to educate our children so that this kind of cone of silence around sexuality is lifted. But first we have to educate ourselves so that we know what we're talking about and feel more confident about it.
So I guess the next natural question would be, like you mentioned, even though we understand the importance of talking about sex, we don't really have sex education ourselves, and therefore we find it hard to talk to our children about it. So being a parent yourself, how would you suggest that parents go about seeking the sex education that they need?
Well, of course, I have to say, I think they should buy my DVD because certainly in terms of a female sexual anatomy and arousal, this is an area where so many of us, even those of us who live in female bodies, are so poorly educated. I have studied sexuality for many years, but a lot of the information that I've put into the DVD has only come to my awareness in the past 6 to 10 years. So although I had been doing the best I could, some of this information is really not been available to us until advances in scientific methodology has given us the possibility to really get clear what's happening in a woman's body. So that's one resource, and there are increasingly many more resources available. And I think one of the things parents can do is become more educated in general around sexuality, because the sad thing is that many children look to the internet for their education, and what they're finding there is not necessarily education, not necessarily valid education in terms of relating successfully with an intimate partner.
Yeah, I agree with you that your DVD is really a very good resource. There was a lot of effort that has gone into it, and it's also done in a very humorous way. I really enjoyed it. There were also several pieces of nuggets of information that I haven't known before watching your DVD, and it's really a resource that I recommend everybody should get. It's also downloadable as a electronic file, so people can actually get it quite easily. Some of the other resources that I think adults would really appreciate would perhaps be Scarlet Teen and also web.The. I think these are two websites that I refer to quite a bit. So we're talking about the importance of talking about sex. If we don't talk about it, then this becomes really difficult because it is part of communication. And So we're having a little bit of time delay with Laura-Doe today. And we're talking about the taboos, shame, and discomfort that we're having around talking about sex and why it's so important to talk about it with our children, lovers, and friends. So any other little tips that you have just before we go into break, Laura?
Well, one thing I think it's great to look at is what are we calling our genitals, both to ourselves, with our lovers, and to our children. And it might be something to consider as we go into the break is what are the names that you know as a child? What are the names you use now? And are they actually the real names for these parts of the body? There's many, I think at least 1,000, maybe many thousands of synonyms for our genitals, and yet there are very few synonyms for the body. And that in itself tells us something about the difficulty in calling a spade, calling a vagina. Why do we have such a problem with that? What's so shameful about mentioning these parts of the body? And when we start to look at that and question ourselves, then I think things become at least bubble up to the surface. So we challenge that discomfort and see where did it come from and why am I carrying it? And then we can start to do something about it and actually see, if it is so bad to use these words and if we can become comfortable just by even practicing.
We'll talk more about our genitals and the names we call them after this break.
Vagina.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. yOM-FM.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
We are with my friend and professional somatic sex educator Laura-Doe, and we are talking about how do we talk about sex today. Just before break, she was asking and inviting listeners to think about the genital names that you use to refer to your own parts. And she talked about, for parents, whether they are using pet names or synonyms, and whether it is easy for us to use the real names of our genitals. So calling a spade a spade. She asked whether we don't refer to the actual names because it's shameful or because we're embarrassed, we're shy, we don't know about it. And this is something that we can all think about. So do you have a name for your genitals? Or how do you refer or call your genitals? Some people are quite upset about certain words, like, for instance, pussy, cunt. And this can be very triggering for some people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be so. So, Laura, do you have anything to add to this piece?
Well, I think it's great. What I suggest, particularly to parents, is, as I mentioned, to actually use and if you use a very sweet name or a very respectful name, there still must be a question, I think, in a child's mind. Why does this part of my body have a different name, whereas my elbow is always called my elbow and it doesn't have any special pet name? My preferred name is the Sanskrit name for the vagina, in fact, for the whole of the genital reproductive apparatus in a woman, which is the name yOni. And I've used that a lot in my work and in the names of the businesses that I run. But what I particularly like about that is that it is really a proper name for this part of the body, although it's in an ancient language. And it also has meanings like sacred place and gateway to the cosmos, and very expansive and respectful names, meanings. And I think we have an issue again with the names of genitals because they're used often in a very degrading way. That's why many people have issue with the word cunt, because it's been given such a bad, it's such a dismissive and derogatory term. And yet it apparently comes from a very respectful root, which means queen or revered feminine person. But these days we tend to use genital names as a put down, which doesn't help the general feeling of well-being and delight around that area of the body.
This is how I really appreciate you explaining what yoni means to listeners. And you would know because you have created the website yoni.com as well as your yOniversity, which people can go to find out more about your work. So yOniversity starts with yOniversity.com.au. And you also have a show about it. So, building on my question about this using the proper names for our genitals, how about the importance of using the proper names for the different parts of our genitals? And female anatomy is quite complex. What do you have to add to that?
Indeed, and when we start to get into the details of the different parts of the female genitalia, there's so much to explore. And one of the general words that we use for feminine genitalia is the vagina. A lot of people feel like when they say, "Oh, I'm speaking about a vagina," they feel like they're talking about the whole of the feminine genitals. But in fact, the vagina is just the internal part, and the correct name for the whole of the external part is the vulva. And then as we go into the details of the vulva, there are all sorts of different parts, all of which have their own particular delights, have their own eroticism, have their own issues potentially, and also have a huge range of variety. And this is another area where I think we feel shame, women and men, but both genders have a sense of shame about their genitals often because they feel like they're not the right size, or that there's then in some way not normal or not correct. And so many men and women have issues about their genitals, and a lot of that is because we so rarely see other people's genitals. There's very little imagery available. There's very little, apart from these days in pornography, where again we're getting a lot of mixed messages and sometimes incorrect messages. So the whole idea of understanding, learning about the variety, the totally natural variety in our genital makeup, the many beautiful different parts of our genital makeup, and just coming to accept the naturalness of our own unique makeup. It's like, we all have a face that's different from everybody else's face. In fact, most of us have genitals that are different from everybody else's. There's no right way of looking in the genital area, and the natural variety is part of the beauty.
Well said. So one of the things that
yes.
Yeah, one of the things that's coming up for me as you begin to talk about how we don't look at other people's genitals and we think that our sizes of our genitals might be strange or abnormal is to look at images online of people who have these parts. So if you Google, I think, images of penises, you'll be able to find, and there are actually body image websites that have created them. There are certainly exhibitions of vulvas that have been out in the media, as well as videos. So I think listeners can Google more about this. So I'd like to ask, as we move on from this, what and when do you think parents need to say to your kids about sex? So, like, when does sex talk really take place or should take place for kids?
Well, I think there's a few important things in that question. I believe that education around sexuality from very early, I'm suggesting we talk as babies are made. But I think as we describe a child's body parts, which we often do, we go, oh, this is your little toe and here's your little hand, and we should make sure not to exclude the genitals from that discussion. So each part of the body receives just as much attention as any other part. And one of the things you said, Martha, was, when should we have the talk? And I think for many of us, that is how sex education happened from our parents. If we did indeed have any sex education, it was as a talk, which happened at a certain point. And what the researchers are saying these days is that the best way to talk about sex with your children is to talk early, to talk little, and to talk often. So sexuality and there are many opportunities when we look around in nature of discussing how the species of both plants and animals and humans are propagated. And most often, children will become curious about all sorts of aspects of life. So I think it's great to be led by a child's interest. And I feel like if somebody asks a question, if a child asks a question at any age, it's appropriate to give them an accurate answer. People speak a lot about age appropriateness of education. I think if a child has asked a question, they should have an accurate answer. It can be very simple, though. If a 4-year-old asks how babies are made, then it can be a one-sentence response, which describes the process of the penis being entered into the vagina and the seed going into the meeting with the egg. It's often a child will be completely satisfied with that answer and move on. If they want to know more, they'll ask more, and then another opportunity can come up for further conversation. So I think throughout life, it's important to be guided by a child's interest. However, if the child does not show an interest in this topic, it's quite important that by at least before the age of 10, have brought this up themselves, have found an opportunity to watch a video about animals in the wild, or notice situations with pets or farm animals where one can actually have a discussion and start the ball rolling, in terms of just keeping your child informed about how babies are made.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for what you're sharing. It's so valuable. And there has been a lot of things written about sex talk with kids, and I get asked this a lot as well. And the common thing is, when should it start? And really, it shouldn't be one big conversation. And we'll be talking more about the sex talk with kids after this break. Stay tuned.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. yOM FM.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. yOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. You are listening to OMTimes Radio on our network, and you will be able to listen to this show without needing to download any app by going to this link, omtimes.com/mobile. That's omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, your friends will be able to listen to this show without needing to download any application. It is real time, and we have different shows on OMTimes Radio Network, and usually it's about things relating to spirituality, including sacred business, so on and so forth. we are with my friend and somatic sex educator, Laura-Doe, and we're talking about how do we talk about sex. Just before break, she was giving some very good advice, which I would like to summarize. She was talking about how, instead of thinking of sex as this one big talk, really the best way to talk about it, based on what researchers are saying and also what she believes is what we could be doing, is to talk about sex early, little, and often. Also to talk about each part of the body with the same attention as we do the other parts. When we get asked questions, to be accurate, to use age-appropriate information, and to be guided by the child's interest. If the child doesn't bring it up and shows no interest before the age of 10, try to bring it up by, for instance, listening, watching some video of animals in the animal world, and start the ball rolling by talking about how babies are made. And so this is what I got from Laura, which is all very good advice and suggestions. Laura is a parent herself. And is there anything else, Laura, that you would like to contribute to this conversation about what parents need to say to their children about sex before we move on to something else?
Well, one of the things I think that's really really useful is to, it doesn't seem like we're talking about sex here, but in encouraging children to tune into and connect with the natural world, to develop sensitivity to the cyclical nature of the seasons and the cycles of the earth and the moon and the sun, allows children to start to develop the sensitivities that will help them as they come into interacting with partners and developing a sensitivity to the nuances of that.
Mm.
So connecting with the natural world and the weather, and just like a farmer, sniffs the air and knows to tune into what's going on around us, is really helpful when it comes to tuning into the cycles of life and appreciating the powerful and somewhat unpredictable nature of the feminine is as a valuable lesson, I think, which stands us in good stead in later life. So those sorts of, and also connection with bodies and respect for their body. I think a lot of what's important for young people is just to feel comfortable in their skin and to feel appreciative of these glorious bodies, being happy for pleasure of whatever nature. Whether it's just the enjoyment of having your hair brushed or of holding hands or something like that. So to encourage children to feel good in their skin and to feel respectful of other people and other people's bodies is actually all part of self-worth education and thus of sex education.
That's great. So, the sound is not very good, so I just summarize what you just said briefly. What Laura-Doe was saying is that she encourages parents to encourage their children to tune into the natural world, the cyclical nature of seasons, the earth, the moon, and how to tune into the natural cycles into their body, and to appreciate the cycles of life. And this would also help them when it comes to interacting with their partners. The second point that she made was to learn how to respect and appreciate our bodies, to enjoy the pleasure of the skin, and so that when they are with their partners as well in future, it's just going to be easier for them. So moving on from that, do you have any specific tips about how we can overcome the feelings of embarrassment or shame that we have when it comes to talking about sex? Not necessarily with our children, but maybe with our friends or lovers. Any tips that you have for that?
Well, yes. One of my tips is practice. Like with everything, if there's something that feels a little bit uncomfortable or difficult to do, a great way to get over that is just to practice. And you might want to just set yourself a challenge to, if speaking about particular genitals or using correct names for the parts of the body is challenging, you might want to say, okay, I'm going to find a way to slip a genital name into one conversation today. Or you might find that there are one or two people where you feel a little bit more comfortable, or where you can say to them, oh, look, I just feel a bit uncomfortable talking about sex, and can I practice with you? Because I find people have it's as if the taboos sort of hold us down. There's kind of like this burden of not being able to speak. But once you start and kind of it's like getting up in the morning. You might feel like you really can't get up, but you make yourself get up, and then you feel fine and go on with your day. So it's just like getting the gears rolling and starting to give yourself permission to talk and to discuss. And another thing you can do is actually journal to yourself, what is it that's stopping you? What's in the way? What do you feel may happen? What would be the worst thing that might happen if you started talking to a lover or to a friend about sexuality? What are your fears? And especially when we're, it's almost like we're giving ourselves a gift if we are able to really express what we want or desire to our partner. We are giving both our partner a gift, because we're giving them information which they may not otherwise have, and we're giving ourselves a gift. So getting over that hump of the challenge gives us a real opportunity to explore new realms and to create an even deeper intimacy.
Beautiful, beautiful. So beautiful. I really love what you're sharing, because these are things that I wouldn't have thought of myself. And you've given us really some very practical tips as well. The first one is to stretch ourselves one conversation at a time, to bring it up in a conversation, for instance. That could be one of the goals that you can have. The second one is to ask for permission, practicing with people that you're comfortable with. And the third one is to do journaling with ourselves. And you also elaborated a little bit how this will benefit us on the long run. It's a gift that we're giving to our partners and to ourselves. This allows us to deepen our connection and to enter into a new realm with the relationship. Fantastic things that you're really sharing with us. I really appreciate it. So, because this show explores the link between sex and spirituality in every episode, so I just felt I needed to ask you this, even though I asked you the last time you were on the show. What makes sex spiritual, and how can we discuss that in our relationships?
Well, that's it's a great question as well, because I think for some people it's difficult necessarily to explore the spiritual nature of sexuality, or to get clear on how spiritual sexuality is. So that in and of itself to have with a partner is a glorious one. We tend to make a lot of assumptions about what the meaning, what sex is about, and what is good about it. So another suggestion, and I'll get to the answer to your question in a moment, but another suggestion would be to bite the bullet and say, I want to have a conversation with you about what sex is for you. What's important about it for you? How does it make you feel? What do you receive from it? And that can open a whole doorway to a deeper understanding, both of your own experience and of your partner's. But another part of that you could include, why is sex spiritual for you, and why is that? And I think for me, sex is spiritual because it for a number of reasons. One is that if I'm making love with a partner, then we are connecting both with our bodies and with flow of energy between us. And in our lovemaking, we're connecting, it seems, with much more than we're becoming more than the sum of our two bodies. We're becoming a union. We're becoming making one that is greater than the two of us in isolation. So we're generating energy and we're raising our vibration. I mean, not all sex maybe feels exactly like that, but I think when there's consensual sex and each person is fully engaged and present, then it's a beautiful expansion.
Yeah, so more after this break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, yOM-FM.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, yOM-FM.
Hello, this is the last part of our show today, and we are down to the last 15 minutes, and we are with Laura-Doe, and we're talking about sex, and specifically how we talk about sex. And today in today's show, we talked about the conversations that parents can have with their kids in sex education, the sex talk. We talked about tips on overcoming feelings of embarrassment about sex, and we also talked about, just before a break, what makes sex spiritual and how we can discuss it. I was kind of engrossed with the conversation that I didn't really realize the break was coming up on us. And so I just wanted to summarize a little bit what Laura-Doe was saying. She was very good in actually talking about how we can just simply have a conversation with our partners on what they feel is important about sex so as to better understand our partners, and then moving the conversation to why they think sex might be spiritual for them. For her, she talks about how during sex, she feels it's more than the sum of two bodies. This sense of union feels like it's much bigger than just two people coming together. She talks about how in some experiences, it feels like it's a generation of energy and the raising of vibration. So I really appreciate what she's sharing on today's show so far. You can read more about Laura by going to her website, yOniversity.com.au, and also her other website, yOni.com. She has a comic cabaret called Vaudeville of the Vulva, and it actually talks about the vulva, of course, but in an educational and entertaining way to tickle at our taboos. She's trained with many doctors, teachers of sexuality, and she has a juicy program for yoni owners and yoni lovers. She also has a cushion that she has called Vulvalicious Cushions, which produces anatomically accurate 3D fiber art pieces. And her latest work is this groundbreaking documentary, The Art and Science of Female Arousal, where you could get a copy of it by going to this website, The Art and Science of Female Arousal.com. It's a long name, but it works. And previously, she was on this show, and the title of the show was also called The Art and Science of Female Arousal. So you really want to listen to that show because she goes into quite a bit of depth about the female anatomy and about the DVD that she's just come up with. I've watched it and I really, really love it. I really recommend it. This is a resource that is invaluable. She does it in a funny, tasteful, educational way, all in one. And you're going to really get a lot of value from watching that DVD. So I highly, highly recommend it. So just as we coming towards the end of the show, I just really wanted to ask Laura-Doe, how does your show, Vaudeville of the Vulva, help people to talk about sex? What has been some of the feedback that you get from your show?
Well, it's designed really to get people to laugh a little at all of this discomfort that we've been discussing, because humor is such a great way to release tension. And the problem with our embarrassment and our discomfort is that it makes us stressed and tense. So Vaudeville of the Vulva is a comic look at all of these issues that we have, and it attempts to, with music and with humor, and with funny characters, to just lift the lid really on this whole cone of silence. And what I've found people have said, both about the show and other things that I do, but particularly about the show, is that they've gone home and suddenly the door has been opened and the conversations can start, and there's a permission. It's as if the show and the laughter gives us permission to discuss this. And what I find is when that happens, then there's almost a tangible lightening in the space, in the theater, or if I'm doing it in a smaller venue, everybody just sort of relaxes. Oh my God, it's okay. We can discuss this area that has been so restricted. And I've had feedback after shows. One woman said, I went home with my friend and we had the most intimate conversation that I have ever had with her. And it's really just opened a door for me to realize I can discuss this with people and have value from that, and feel more relaxed and easy around this topic, which is so crucial really to my well-being within my relationships.
That's really, really awesome. Really, really good work.
Thank you.
It's amazing. You're right. Laughter does help a lot with breaking the ice and about this topic. And I do talk about sex in quite a funny, lighthearted way with my clients. And it really helps them because, it's funny because we see ourselves in it. And that's how we relate with why it's so funny, because it's true. A lot of it is true.
Yes, that's right.
So what are your future plans with this show? Like, I know you travel quite a bit, you're based in Australia and you go to Bali, and right now as we speak, you are in Oxford. You travel quite a lot, really. So what are your plans?
Well, one of the things I'm hoping to do while I'm here in Oxford is actually do a bit more creative writing and develop maybe not entirely a new show, but new material to add to the whole Vaudeville repertoire, and I'm hoping that once the DVD gets out, because the DVD itself, as you know, Martha, has sections, small snippets from the show, and I think that I'm hoping that there'll be more interest in that particular aspect of what I do, because it is a very light-hearted way to bring this topic to light, and also to inform. There's a lot more information that comes out through the characters of the show. So it's a great it's a great way to get into the topics and to start for me to show people that, there's more information to be found here. And, you may like to look a little further than what you thought you knew, because we do have, we have very limited information. It's becoming more widely spread.
Yeah, your work is just so valuable, so good. You're really passionate about what you do. Any other future plans besides what you just shared?
Two instruments.
Yeah. Any other future plans that you have? The DVD promotion is really a very big piece.
I'm wanting to get
Wanting to get what?
People can deepen their understanding. Online courses. I'm developing online courses so that people can work with me online and deepen their understanding of the material around arousal and sexuality.
Yeah, you could come out with like a facilitator's guide to go along with the DVD, and
exactly.
And definitely, yes, you could also come up with several other online programs, I'm sure, to support your work. So thank you so much, Laura-Doe, for coming onto today's show. And like I mentioned just now, you can check out her website, yOni.com, yOniversity.com.au, the art and science of female arousal.com. And next week, I have a different guest, and we're going to be talking about bringing sex positivity to Poland. So this friend of mine, she's also a graduate from the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality, and she actually founded the Sex Positive Institute in Poland. She's a sex positive activist, advocate, and educator. And for the last 7 years, she's worked with NGOs dealing with creating equal opportunities for gender and sexual diversities representants. people at risk of sexual exclusion, and also the promotion of mental, physical, sexual, and productive health. Her specialization is in consciousness rising and with expertise in gender and sexual diversities. And so you want to tune in next week to listen to more about sexual positivity and the movement that's happening in Poland. And this is really quite unusual in Europe, especially since it's predominantly Christian Catholic. So this is a very interesting conversation that we're bringing to Eros Evolution. Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets, and this has been Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore. I'm Singaporean Chinese, and I'm talking about the link between the two because this is something that will help with our evolution. How can we use our sexuality to help us to evolve into more aware and conscious individuals so that together we can make a difference in the world that we live in. Together we can change the world. So tune in to Eros Evolution next week and be sure to follow me on all the different social channels that I'm on, especially Eros Evolution on Facebook. You can also have access to all our different shows by just doing a Google Eros Evolution at a glance. This is where I put up all the shows that I have done, and you'll be able to find Laura-Doe's previous show as well. So keep tuning in to OMTimes Radio Network where all the best shows are happening. Till then, bye.